Uh, Thank you, Wild Digital, for inviting me. So Warung Pintar. So my name is Agung Bezharie. I'm born and raised in Indonesia, and ever since I'm an Indonesian, I always think that, oh, I'm sitting in a gold mine that are not founded yet. So Warung Pintar has been one of the things that I really want to do for years, and hopefully this we could share something out of Indonesian. And so Warung Pintar, when we first started we just started 1.5 years ago. And when I first started, I was working for one of the venture capitalists in Indonesia and Singapore. I saw when people talk about Indonesia, what's the first thing that comes in mind is the 260 million populations, right? The only thing. And young populations and all the consumer market and everything. But what really interested for me is actually the emerging middle class, the aspiring middle class, those who actually coming out from the poor areas and becomes today Grab drivers, Gojek drivers, Tokopedia sellers, and more and more. So it's really interesting for me because over a couple of years, and a lot of things are happening in Indo. And not only in Jakarta, but also across the nations. And when I was working for one of a fund in Indo, one of my main concern is always SME. So SME is one of the things that we've been talking about, but we never actually know about, and up until I saw this statistics. When you see the statistics, it's actually very interesting when you see, because you see a lot of micro businesses in Indo, but almost none of them could cross, right? There's almost no growth. Well, it's kind of weird because when we do more research about Indo, so as an Indonesian, I would always know that in the back of our mind, we always have this, urge to start a business. We always want to build something, whether you're a director, whether you're a security guy or a janitor, you always want to build a business. It could be your retirement plan. It could be because you cannot get a job, or it's because you're just passionate about it, right? So Indonesia have a very strong perception towards entrepreneur. When you talked about to the Indonesian guy, like you mentioned one name, Bob Sadino, then they will always think that, oh, that's the eccentric entrepreneur that really cool. He raised from very bottom and he built an empire. And then all the families also do the same things, right, in Indonesia. But then why does most of the business in Indo stays in micro, right? So this is a huge problem that has been haunting me for years, right? So more things is when we see SMEs, we kind of try to see, there's like millions of SMEs, and we tried to see what's the easiest SME that Indonesian could start. So what's the most common SMEs that happening? And we also know, I think Malaysian also called it warung. So warung is the mom and pop shop, the retail shop. And amazingly, we have 3.1 million mom and pop shop in the country. And with this many mom and pop shop with no access to growth, it means what? It means opportunity, right? So with Warung Pintar in Indo, we try to build this. We try to transform the micro business for a future economy. And doing this, how we could do this, right? So what I do is actually when we first started doing this, I rode a motorbike across Jakarta, went to a couple of smaller cities as well, just talking to them, right? Asking the ibu and the bapa is like, hey, how much you're making a day? How much you're making a month? How do you actually choose items that you're selling? And how you do manage your business? How do you know your consumers? How do you choose your inventory that you're selling? How do you get any financing? Do you have any idea what financing is? And most of the time, they don't have anything, right? So the first thing that we build is actually, we want to build the business process. So we built the business process for warungs. So when you go to like the traditional mom and pop shop in Indo, you would see they are doing accounting on the back of cigarette paper. And they would do inventory management based on their gut feeling. And most of the time when you ask them, hey, how much are you making a day, boo? They would say, probably around $10. Probably, could be more. So they don't, I mean, like, they don't know what's happening with their business. So there's no chance for them to grow, right? So it's somehow, finding this problem just because I went there and go down, it just explained everything about Indonesia, right? The gap between the big companies, those who work at a fast-growing startup ecosystem, and to the warungs who's actually doing the same thing, which is starting a business, have a huge gap in terms of knowledge. So we tried to solve the problem through building something very simple. We tried to build the procurement app, which is a way to connect the traditional e-commerce. We tried to connect merchants with the warungs, and then we tried to build a POS system, so make it easy for them to do the inventory management system and do the monitoring dashboard thing. And we end up with this yellow warungs. There's around 2,000. Today is around 2,187 warungs across Jakarta, Greater Jakarta area and East Java. So that's only 2 provinces, and we're growing very fast. So what we have today is actually a warungs that are more fitted towards the growing economy, growing middle class. People would ask, why would you put Wi-Fi in warungs? Do you know that a lot of e-sport players are playing in warung in Indo? It's crazy. We did this one tournament in a couple of our warungs, and you know how many people registered? It's 1,500, and we just blasted in 3 days. That's huge, right? And we don't do anything. We just let's start the e-sport tournament. And this has been really interesting because the main thing about Indo is actually there's always something that are left out and seen as, then we should help them. No, in Warung Pintar, we try to see it as an opportunity instead of charity. So what we found out after building Warung Pintar for 1.5 years is that we built an economical opportunity for a lot of people, especially for these micro entrepreneurs, and it's also affected their families, their communities, and a lot of people around it. And one of the biggest interesting data that we gather is that there's a lot of we have 46% of our warung owners are actually females, and around 26% of them are previously working for either a manufacturing job or something else, and they choose to start a warung. Why? Because they want to have time with their kids, right? And then all this impact is getting bigger and bigger, and it's really interesting because when we do this last survey, we found out that 55% of our warung owner are making more than the minimum wage of Jakarta, and that's really something. And actually, it's coming from the ideas that a lot of people say is that it's impossible, it's very underserved. No one's gonna do it. It's already been there for years and years and years. And people would ask me, how do you do it? It's easy, right? So I remember one time in one of my class about human-centered design. There's a lecture about human-centered design. And what I remember about it is actually how Apple kill the manual book, right? And I realized, dude, all the tech that we're building is not for them. That's why there should be someone building a tech for the warungs. So here we are building the tech for warungs, and we create more impact to a lot of Indonesian people. So this is one of the stories that actually touch us, the Warung Pintar team. stories in Bahasa. So this Bapak is called Pak Rizky. So he joined us last December. And when he joined, he was a Gojek driver, and he somehow lost his smartphone and broke his bike, so he don't have any like stable income. So he come in and be a Warung Pintar, and back then he was really he's in tight spot because his wife is actually pregnant. So he becomes a Warung Pintar owner for around 7 months, and then eventually he have enough money to pay for the labor. And after labor, he names his son Warpin, which is Warung Pintar. So, so that's the story that really touches. So basically that's it. I only have 15 minutes. So thank you very much, Wild Digital, for giving me the chance to tell about Indonesia and tell about grassroots community in Indonesia and how we're changing things with technology and how wonderful it is that life has changes because of the simple technology. So thank you very much.
Thank you.